The internet is no stranger to its fair share of bizarre fetishists, but none have risen to a level of mythical notoriety more so than DeviantArt's legendary Wonder Bread guy. The Wonder Bread guy, or Merlogic1 as he's better known over on DeviantArt and Twitter, originated as somewhat of an enigma, acting for a few years as the boogeyman of the online art community. Over time, he built a reputation for reaching out to artists with his vague requests before launching into detailed explanations of exactly what he wanted commissioned. That being images of busty, rich white women shopping for loaves of Wonder Bread in grocery stores, or destroying the environment with chainsaws and carbon-spewing bread factories. But all of this goes far beyond a simple sexual thrill. To Merlogic, this is an obsession, a religion of sorts. His online actions have even had severe consequences in his real life, causing him to be fired from his job, disowned by his family, and generally scorned, both online and off. Now, all of this is definitely a little strange and surreal, but how do we know for sure that this is fetish art? Well, to answer that, we need to take a step back to where it all began. The 18th of March 2016, when a 24-year-old Merlogic posted his first commissioned piece to DeviantArt. The piece, just titled A Gated White Bread Community, depicts Asahi from The Legend of Korra being served slices of Wonder Bread covered in mayonnaise by Winter from a show called Ruby. In this fine Renaissance piece of art, the enslaved Winter promises to Asami that she will bulldoze even more trees and pump the air with increasing levels of CO2 in order to increase sandwich production. In the post, Merlogic claims that the presence of the mayonnaise is to help fulfill that stereotype of being a white supremacist. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'm sure Merlogic knows what he means. The notion of the woman in Merlogic's drawings being deliberately evil would become a bit of a thing, but more on that in a little bit. Overall, this image would serve as the genesis of the degeneracy he would then go on to dedicate himself to over the following years. It was only after Merlogic had built a steady portfolio of similar art that certain trends started to become noticeable. Themes of domination, environmental destruction, and ridiculous price gouging would begin to emerge. Chances are you'll have stumbled across an image at some point that, while not overtly sexual, definitely sends off some inignorable synapses in your brain that something is very, very wrong. Maybe a certain angle, a certain focus, or something you can't quite put your finger on. And it's no different in Merlogic's art, where there is a focus on what would otherwise be a completely mundane element of the image. In this case, the Wonder Bread. The oddly specific scenarios, poses, and text about destroying the environment only helps to reaffirm this. The often isolated setting, existing in a white void as if to serve a set purpose, really sets off those fetish alarms. Oftentimes, these identifiers are rather nebulous and subtle enough for you to pick up that something isn't quite right, but not always understand exactly what. Well, in Merlogic's case, it's a little more obvious. Bread, blondes, and bustiness. You might think that all of this seems a little strange, but ultimately harmless. Well, I thought so too, until I dug a little deeper while researching this video and came to fully understand the man behind the bread. Not that bread. This bread. Throughout his hundreds of commissions, Merlogic is rumoured to have spent between 40 to 50k as a conservative estimate, with some even speculating that he's spent far more. Once again, this isn't just a fetish, this is a way of life. If it wasn't clear by now, this guy is pretty dedicated to the cause. As one Tumblr user explains, he absolutely was not just a normal guy with a weird kink. This shit was his life, pretty much. He had lots of talk about consumerism, slavery, and capitalism, and why they were all good things, almost to the point of a religion to him. He tried talking to me about his commissions of a comic, of, I believe, Asami cutting down a rainforest and industrializing it, and like weird undertones of loving sandwiches. Everything he talked about in this aspect came down to sandwiches with him. The user went on to reference how even Shadman himself refused a commission from him. Now, if you've somehow not yet been exposed to who Shadman is, allow me to spoil your innocence. Shadman is a notorious online adult content artist infamous for having basically no line he won't cross, choosing to draw anything controversial, be it political, religious, or even depicting sexualized versions of real-world underage people such as Keemstar's daughter. In 2021, he was even charged for assault with a deadly weapon. Even this guy thought Merlogic was going too far. Now, to expand on that further, as mentioned earlier, Merlogic really enjoys the concept of a woman who is unapologetically, cold-heartedly evil. His advocacy for slavery and rampant consumerism could simply be explained away as an overindulgence into his lust for evil and domination, rather than a real, genuine condoning of it, but the waters become a little muddier the more you understand about him. On a dark and more serious subject, he has been fired from his job and possibly disowned from his family for this kind of stuff. He's talked about assaulting, sexually assaulting, and insulting the race or sexuality of his co-workers. People caught on that he was kind of fucked up and emailed his boss over that stuff and got him fired. I got to watch as he complained about it, and the entire forum that he was on talking about it blew up for a good solid 2 hours over how fucked up this guy is for thinking he did nothing wrong, and him insulting everyone. It was absolutely bonkers. I also found a funny junk post which gives a little more clarity to this, stating that Mer worked in a troubled youth foster program and was posting personally identifiable information about his co-workers, boss, and members of the public he worked with to 4chan. Subsequently, a user on the site got in contact with his work and showed them the posts on the forum along with some of his Wonder Bread art to demonstrate how truly deranged he was, which, surprise surprise, got him fired. Naturally, Merlogic wasn't too happy about this and had an outburst across multiple boards on the site where he would spam 11-minute clips from various cartoons in order to mess up the site's data storage. Surprisingly, in 2018, Merlogic would go on to host a Reddit AMA where he would answer some burning questions about himself. Most importantly, he clarified why he was into Wonder Bread specifically, simply stating that the texture reminded him of his ex-girlfriend's breasts, which he remembers feeling while watching Howl's Moving Castle with her. He also sheds some much needed light on what it is about the fetish that appeals to him, but his reply is a little poorly worded and pretty inconcise. Thankfully though, Scumbagovich has a great video where she actually manages to interview Merlogic and has him explain it to her. I'll put the timestamp in the description below, but it can be summed up as a mix between domming and corruption. The shamelessly evil dedication to destroying not only the environment, but also the corruption of one's own body through consuming processed, manufactured food, products such as Wonder Bread and mayonnaise. We also learn in this interview that the conception point for Mer's obsession over evil women stemmed all the way back to his early childhood, while watching an episode of Dexter's Laboratory. The episode involves Dexter and his sister Dee Dee being forced to swap rooms, causing Dexter to imagine all of the shamelessly evil destruction his sister causes. One thing that also remains a little unclear is what exactly happened to him in the aftermath of his firing from his previous job, or if his family are even back in contact with him now. Generally, not much is known about his real life, although Merlogic still appears to be somewhat present online, continuing to post about Wonder Bread over on Twitter to this very day, and even participating in the odd interview from time to time. I think it's pretty safe to say, at least for now, that Merlogic has probably peaked in terms of sheer insanity and is just kind of chilling, enjoying his bready goodness in relative peace as he slowly but consistently adds to his ever-growing collection. So there we have it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I think it's clear that this has been the most deranged topic on the channel so far, but stick around, because I have a feeling it's only going to get more deranged from here. Thanks again for watching. Until next time.